Welcome. Log Horizon, the 2013 anime, is bad, and if you like it, you too are bad. Now this, of course, is my opinion, but that's not going to stop me from trying to prove it. Today on Super Turbo Ultra, we are going to look at this train wreck of a show's narrative, characters, and a few other things to systematically break down what they tried to achieve, how they failed to achieve it, and its moderate popularity despite being my least pleasant viewing experience of the year. Log Horizon is the story of Glasses Boy, a blank audience insert who is good at video game and is thrown into the world of video game, where real life and game mechanics seamlessly blend. Glasses Boy uses this singular character trait to inspire undying loyalty from everyone he meets among the thousands of other players who are also suddenly dropped into this world. Despite showering our protagonist with hugs and kisses every chance it gets, Log Horizon differs from other works in the isekai genre by following the story of many characters and focusing on world building rather than the adventures of just the protagonist. Now, despite my strong opinion on this show as a whole, I must say this is a perfectly strong premise, a good one even. Exploring the fine ins and outs of the brand new world, the multitude of characters that are forced to inhabit it, and the consequences their decisions have would make for a great viewing experience if done well. The show of course fails at nearly every turn, but a good premise is a good premise, and so it's worth first briefly pointing out where it succeeds and what it does well. First things are the visuals. While it does make use of a more simplistic anime style, it does get great mileage out of it. Fights are well shot, charging each frame with energy, and the action is clear where everyone is spatially to each other. The shot selection helps the audience feel each narrative beat and aids in telling the wider story as a whole. Of course, there are exceptions, but I'm not a complete nitpicking asshole, so we'll just chalk those up to budget issues and move on. When the triumphant moments hit, they hit. In the character's very first fight, they struggle with very basic enemies, unsure of how to use their real bodies to do what they previously accomplished with just a keyboard and mouse. But in the moment they figure it out and switch from stumbling over themselves in clunky menus to kicking ass, and the music swells, many casual observers can be forgiven for becoming fans. This isn't just a solitary scene either. Many times throughout, be it action scenes or the quiet moments on the road, the show paints an incredible picture of what it's like to be where the characters are, and invites you to come in and share on their good times and triumphs. All to say, it makes you feel like you are trapped in an MMO. IGN would be proud. The show is, on rare occasion, able to display narrative restraint, making some scenes less shit than most. In the siblings' backstory, they don't go into a long detail with the characters monologuing where they came from and why it matters. Instead, they drop two quick shots of one of the siblings pushing the other in a wheelchair, partnered with the brother jumping around testing his new body in this new world. These juxtaposition of shots tells us more in seconds than, well, some entire episodes in this series are able to in their entire runtimes. Early on, some characters reveal that they have created a game version of a combustion engine, and later in the next episode we briefly get to see a newspaper detailing this achievement. In the second fight of the series, we see our protagonist thrash three characters with very distinct appearances. Instead of disappearing never to be seen again, we see them as residents of the local town, becoming merchants rather than bandits. Seeing these characters participating in the economy that has come about directly due to the protagonist gives a sense of continuity to a world which is wildly inconsistent and poorly written. That's right, this is where the compliments end. Now, I know one way or the other, you aren't here to listen to someone compliment a mediocre show, so let's get down to the good shit. The main hook to Log Horizon is our protagonist. Glasses Boy is able to bend the rules of the game with nothing but his smarts and knowledge of the game mechanics, which completely reshapes the world. It's a smarty boy anime, think Death Note or Dr. Stone. The problem here is in order to write a smarty boy protagonist, you need to be at least half a smarty boy yourself as a writer, what the writers here are not. All this to say, clever characters not written by clever writers leave a lot to be desired. Glasses Boy is known for making clever plans. Fuck knows how often all the others vomit praise all over him, but let's really take a closer look at them, specifically Season 1, starting with some of the smaller ones and working our way up. Alright, so Episode 2, our smarty boy is pushing up his glasses, ready for his first real fight of the show. Let's compare what abilities he uses compared to his opponent. Well, what do you know? The team that's actually able to use basic abilities wins. Even in character, they trash their enemies for being blithering morons. Not exactly the best way to establish your smarty boy when you face him against enemies that, even in the story, they trash for being blithering morons. Now, you could argue the point of the scene is just to show off what the main characters are capable of. Beating up on a punching bag might show that off, but that doesn't change. It's an incredibly boring fight. After all, people don't exactly crowd into stadiums to watch a boxer square off against his training equipment. Next in episode 4, we have this moment here. It's supposed to be a heroic moment showing the protagonist's powerful teamwork. Cool. It's a shame that the writers couldn't create the moment without completely trashing their game balance. You know, just a small little thing that the entire anime is based around. So let's take a slow motion look at exactly what happened. Did you catch it? It's not what the writers wanted you to focus on. Let's quickly take a look at all the root abilities in the most comparable game, World of Warcraft. See this chart I lovingly crafted? It only takes a glance to spot most abilities have a cooldown much longer than their duration. Cool, so let's go back and find out how Glasses Boy measures up. And how short does it last? Okay, I guess they don't ever actually say it, but we know it lasts for at least 15 whole seconds, potentially much longer, which is at least as short as the cooldown, and the only exception is they don't destroy the 5th vine? That's madness. Nah, that's crazy. That would mean he could potentially freeze somebody in place for life if he so wanted, using the ability exactly as intended. Do you even realize what you have? Forget world-changing magic, you have the strongest spell in the game, of any video game, but the writers are too stupid to realize it. It shouldn't be. Now, the big flagship Smarty Boy move that makes him infamous throughout the world is creation of the Round Table. Let's break down the major steps: building up cash, convincing the money guilds to invest, and buying the all-important guild hall before anybody else. In step 1, Smarty Boy builds up his fortune by using his exclusive knowledge on how to make tasty food in this bland world. A knowledge, of course, that was just simply given to him. Now, selling a highly sought-after product that you have a complete monopoly on isn't exactly a genius move, it's the next obvious step. But we can't even give Glasses Boy credit for that one, as it's entirely Glasses Girl's idea. So step 1 of the plan really had nothing to do with him, as it's the girl and Catman who really did it. Next in our scene with the Traders Guild, they set up 2 clear goals: get the money, and do it in a way that wouldn't breed distrust, like lying. Now, while they spend most of their screen time focusing on their misleading statements about them needing the money for a quest and ignoring the idiocy of them blindly stumbling over each other without knowing what they're agreeing to, what I want to focus on is what they give as an incentive to invest. Details further down the line about their plan and the secret to their cooking. While they say 3 people can only keep the secret if 2 of them are dead, it's still a pretty fair incentive and they accept. Good job, mission accomplished, but hold up, what's this? What are you doing? You just made them spend $5 million, then you give it away for free? You thought outright betraying nearly a third of the potential council members was a good idea when everyone was already so on the fence? No way everyone doesn't walk out of that room. Yeah, in the end, it really wasn't the half-truth thing you had to be worried about when you pull moves like that outright. Of course, the writers need this maneuver to succeed, so it does. No excuses given, it just works. But even then, it doesn't reflect well on Glasses Boy that his plan only works due to the trade guilds working with 2 brain cells between the 3 of them. Finally, the actual purchasing of the guild hall, which gives him power over the city. How is this part of the plan stupid? Well, actually it isn't. It isn't stupid at all. In fact, it's so not stupid, it's rather hard to believe not a single person among the tens of thousands of adventurers in the town noticed it was possible before Glasses Boy was able to finish his plan. Now, I hear people actually trying to defend the scene by saying he was the only one observant enough or nobody else bothered to check, and sure, yeah, that's completely true. But when you're comparing your protagonist to a city of morons who never even considered checking on their environment or exploring further within a game mechanic they are familiar with, does it really make the protagonist look good? Or is it everybody else who looks really, really bad? Come to think of it, everybody is such a bumbling moron. The protagonist is only able to stand out because he has more than 2 brain cells to rub together. Perhaps that's what this anime is trying to tell us. Excessive MMO gaming has fried all of these people's brains. The only person who's retained his average intelligence is able to completely dominate. So I can nitpick almost every time Glasses Boy opens his mouth in Season 1, but those are the major moments that couldn't be ignored. So what about Season 2? Surely they learned from their mistakes and avoided such weak scenes. And well, yes, they didn't fail to make Smarty Boy scenes by forgoing trying altogether. The writers take a new approach by having the protagonist locked away in a room doing paperwork in a majority of his scenes, or playing the game completely by the book, not trying any Smarty Boy moves. The one exception is when he's thrown into this impossible scenario fighting 3 difficult raid bosses at once, where he splits them up and kites them back. It's actually a perfectly fine scene, no complaints. If it takes a solid way through the second season to have an actually good Smarty Boy scene though, in a Smarty Boy anime, it's not good. Really not good. So now that we know the writers have no idea how to write an intelligent character, surely the viewers have picked up on this as well. Surely the fans have paid enough attention to notice these details. Huh, I don't understand. It should be so clear to these active viewers. What treacherous techniques led to these poor innocents astray? You see, the writers pulled a little tricky on the audience. They've used this insidious technique I like to call sucking. Why spend the time to write clever actions for a character when you could just have everybody else monologue about how clever they are every 5 seconds? To write your character showering your Mary Sue with praise is to write the act of sucking. And boy oh boy is there a lot of it here. This is not a small part of a larger whole. A large majority of all the internal monologue, which there is a lot of, in the series is dedicated solely to the act of sucking. It doesn't matter how little your character does, when you spend what feels like half your runtime giving them some of that suck, the unwashed masses will throw themselves at your character's feet, infinitely impressed and ready to give them some of that good sucking themselves. The one true shining light of Log Horizon is just how well it's able to give sucking to Glasses Boy. Whether it be dropping unearned praise every 5 seconds or establishing him as a Mary Sue that everyone agrees with as their default state, giving the side characters no internal motivation themselves, existing only to help the main character, I won't let anybody say anything negative about how good this show is at sucking. Of course, this show is so much more than its mediocre characters. It's about this magical new world they all find themselves in that the narrative spends so much time to explore. When it comes to world building, consistency is key, and Log Horizon does not fail in world building in any one big way, but in a lot of small ways, consistently. Like, what's up with the engine? The simple prototype is made out to be a very big deal, and then suddenly within less than a year we have this and this. Sure, technology progresses, and I'd probably be complaining if nothing was done with it at all, but this seems a little too over the top and way too quick of a time frame. The boat was commissioned in less than a week from its reveal and only 2 months after the prototype? And the city defenses. Pretty important. We like our cities to be defended, right? Well, apparently not.
侵入を防げなくなります。再稼働。10年単位の時間がかかる。本当によろしいのですね。はい。この一件は仮とさせていただきたい。冒険者まで。うるせえぞデミー。お前も。
Ah man, the princess, what are we going to do with her? The writer sure didn't seem to know either. All she does is side against her own people for stupid reasons and puts herself down so harshly, I'm convinced it's a fetish thing. Well, I think you did garbage, and it only worked because the writers needed it to. Despite being level 90 and supposedly adventuring with Glasses Boy in the past, Purple Girl's most distinct character trait is she never seems to have an idea what's going on. What, you're telling me the level 90 guild leader and the girl who partied with Glasses Boy have never been on a raid? What were y'all doing together, picking berries? No sense. It really comes to a forefront when in the mini arc centered around her when her goal is to get stronger. She accomplishes this by whining, failing to buy better equipment, and spying on others to no avail. Not to mention, if this show had even remotely realistic characters, they probably wouldn't take too kindly from being spied on by the villain with Glasses' right-hand assassin. Of course, instead they take pity on her, and this occurs over several episodes. The entire time, any audience member whose brain hasn't been melted into complete mush by her lolly charm would think, what about the obvious solution? If only there was some kind of way to get stronger in this world, some way that was completely supported by the game mechanics, one that was one of the most basic concepts in video games. Yeah, you're kind of a bag of bricks, aren't you? Oh, don't be a liar, Glasses Boy. And because I'm not done shitting on the action scenes, let's talk about how this one tries really hard to build up some good moments, and then completely drops it all. In this multi-episode mini-arc, we have the babies learning how to use teamwork for the first time. They fail and flail about wildly, as Sister takes several episodes to build up enough courage to say, what if we didn't run in like complete morons? After what feels like forever, she finally gets them to sit down and strategize, and by strategize, I mean just talk about the basic abilities of their class. I assumed they were at least aware of what the others can do and was discussed off camera, but no, we have a very long scene about something that could have been easily assumed? So our mini heroes learn the power of teamwork and face the dungeon once more, and so they use the power of teamwork to save the day, right? Well, they do make a point of showing off their new teamwork, and then this happens. Guy just single-handedly wipes the enemies no sweat. Is this the point of the scene? No. That's not what the writers want you to focus on at all. But that doesn't change. That's what literally happens. Despite all of the sucking the writers give to their new teamwork, it's their increased level that lets them roll right through the dungeon. This is far from the only time that something like this happens. It's like there's two completely different ways to view the show. The way the writers want you to see it and what is actually there. Of course, what isn't there is often as important as what is. And you know what isn't here? Following up on storylines. Remember the big climax to season 1 where Glasses Boy does his big world magic thing? Well, the season 2 writer sure didn't. Never mentioned again. And the character that the magic was for, does he spend his time contemplating his new state of existence? Nah, he's there for dog jokes. Hey, which of the round table people are going to receive the titles of nobility to build trust between the two kinds of people? Let's just distract the audience with goblins and forget all about it. Every scene we have where characters are trying to draw information out of each other? Cool, dramatic, interesting, and easy as fuck to write when you just pull a distraction instead of providing any kind of information. Can you imagine if real shows tried to pull this?
Tyrion, were you the one who killed my son?
Have some wine.
Thanks.
So what do we have when we aren't sucking or failing to world build? Powerful character moments? No, we need to hire competent writers, and that simply isn't in our budget. Instead, we got a wide variety of obnoxious moments and characters to pad out our runtime. So, we have our standard issue panty jokes, which is completely subjective whether or not you find funny, but I refuse to believe any mentally cognitive person could still find the same joke several times an episode for 50 episodes humorous. Just let the guy spurg out about panties already, fuck. Now, we can't judge media from the past with our modern day sensibilities, but the amount of raw XD humor is kinda off the charts. This was 2013, surely this was weird even back in those days, right? It's everywhere you look. Either the writers were rolling in their seats, patting themselves on the back for their comedic genius, or this is the act of desperate people pulling off their last resort to hit that coveted 24-minute runtime. And of course, we haven't talked about obnoxious until we have talked about this. At one point I would have said season 2 was better than season 1, but then they introduced this monstrosity, now I kinda hate them both equally. It's hardly the end of the world to include elements I don't like, but cripes, it eats up so much screen time. Even in the middle of what was once an intense action scene until she gets her grubby little mitts on it. And for the biggest waste of time, take a look at season 2, episode 10. It starts with them sitting in a room after losing a fight and ends with them still sitting around in the same room. It took them a full episode to come to the conclusion, we should try again, like we the audience thought they were just going to give up and go home. So what happens in the middle? The most pathetic and unintentionally hilarious speech I have ever heard. For an inspirational speech, this guy sure is pretty fucking whiny. The internal monologue while he's doing it is even more lame. Aw, don't worry baby, you're great because you play video games. You are the sweetest little victim and everybody else who says otherwise is just being mean. Holy crap, how is this still going? This was nearly half the episode. How pathetic. This guy straight up had a near mental breakdown whining about every problem he's ever had making a friend as a kid. It's still going. The one guy interrupted him for a bit, but it just got him going all over again. Seriously, this episode had to been to save money on animation or pad runtime. It only finishes past 19 minutes in. Aw, poor little gamer baby. Do you live in a society? I know Game of Thrones got some shit for dedicating a whole episode preparing for what turned out to be an anticlimactic battle. But imagine if the episode after that was entirely dedicated to the Dragon Queen moping around feeling sorry for herself. Now, I would like to leave you on this. A quote from a respected journalist that made it to the Wikipedia article. Somewhat bland and generic in design, which is a bit of an accomplishment given how many character creation options there apparently are. She used the design of Akatsuki as an example, explaining that the character's beauty had to be constantly reminded to the audience despite the fact that she's one of the less striking female characters on screen. Another issue Silverman pointed out was the apparent overuse of Nakshui's perverted nature for comedic relief, and finding that for some viewers he may be line-crossingly obnoxious. Thank you Wikipedia, you truly are the best resource. Now this is where I originally planned to wrap things up and end this review. I really did, but there's still clearly some runtime left in this video. I want to keep this review solely about the narrative, but this one thing just eats up too much of the runtime. No review would be complete without at least mentioning the incredible fascination with lollies the writers have. It starts 11 minutes in on the first episode and doesn't let up from there. She's hot? Really? She is a child! One the show makes a point of reminding us quite a few times, while also hitting us with scenes like this. Along with that weird my lord thing, doesn't that make everybody else in the room feel awkward? Normally no, but you did literally choose that body. The writers made sure of that. Oh, fuck out of here with that lol is actually adult BS. Is this a legal thing? I feel like this is included entirely as a legal thing. Next we have Sister, the middle schooler. The show practices restraint and goes quite a while treating her the way normal writers would, but after so long, the absolute degenerates that wrote this shit just couldn't resist sexualizing her any longer. After all, any female character that isn't infatuated with the main character is just a wasted opportunity, no matter how skeezy it makes the audience feel. And then we have Little Red, the least creepy of our lollies, but that's not saying much here. She's introduced to the story alongside the Catman, and that's about where any amount of characterization for her ends. She really likes Cat Daddy and is not even slightly concerned about hiding it. Newlywed? She's middle school. I get kids say stuff like that to each other, but it's weird when adults spend quite a lot of time in their series writing kids like that. It's even weirder when a character who gets as much screen time as her only ever seems to have yiffing on her mind. Now, this wouldn't be so bad if it was made out to be one-off jokes, but it's everywhere. How everywhere is it? Not only is it in every episode, they dedicated an entire episode to pushing it further. The writer said, stop. We need to establish just how hard the lollies are simping after our boy before we take another step with the plot. And that's just what they did with episode 22. Now, don't get me wrong. An episode with less pressure is nice. Get to know the characters better, genuinely great. But to make it almost entirely about the sexual tension between an adult and children instead of developing any other aspect of the characters or more world building? Now that's pretty wrong. If this doesn't make you feel uncomfortable, then you make me feel uncomfortable. Somehow, this is the least comfortable part of all this. Having someone come from the outside saying, hey, it's perfectly fine for a child to want a relationship with an adult and trying to normalize it? Yeah, that's what people who are going to defend this are going to say. So here we are. I'm so over this, and this video's been going long, so let's wrap things up quick. Block Horizon is bad. Instead of writing a cohesive world with interesting characters, they went the easy way out with lollies and a whole lot of sucking for the protagonist. They couldn't write a clever character moment if their life depended on it, and I take back every nice thing I said near the beginning of this video. I don't know, remember when the two lollies straight up roofie Glasses Boy on Valentine's Day? That was a low point. So all this to say, enjoy season 3. I know I won't.